requirement of the New Jersey Public Meetings Act has been complied with and that adequate advance notice of this meeting was given at least 48 hours in advance. On August 15, 2015, notice was mailed to the Courier Post in Aldea. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board located by the reception desk at the central office and all school buildings' bulletin boards within the district. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Teresa Atwood. Here. Mr. Jose Bueno Brenta. Ms. Dorothy Burley. Here. Ms. Barbara Costarella. Here. Mr. Wasim Mohammed. Here. Ms. Felicia Reyes Morton. Ms. Martha Wilson.
Present.
And Ms. Catherine Blacksher. Madam President.
Excused absence.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now turn the meeting over to our Board Secretary, Ms. Willis.
At this time, I call for the motion to go into closed session to discuss the matters of personnel and the matters of attorney-client privileges. May I have a second? Second. The motion was given by Ms. Atwood and the second by Ms. Carcerella. All in favor of going to closed session, say yea.
Yes.
We are now in closed session and will be returning at 6 o'clock. At this time, I call for the motion to come out of closed session at 6 o'clock p.m. I need a board member.
So moved.
Is
Motion to move.
there a second motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion to come out of closed session was made by Ms. Burley, and second was by Mr. Wasim Mohammed. All in favor of coming out of closed session, say yes.
Yes.
We are now out of closed session.
Okay, so we're going to begin with the superintendent's report. So if the board members could please take the first row, and I'll move down to the podium. All right, good evening, everyone. So excited to give you all a few updates here as we gear up for the first day of school on September the 8th. And let's just jump right into it. I want to begin by just acknowledging the professional development that has been underway or will soon be underway. So today marked the final day of professional development for our school leaders. So our principals, vice principals, and lead educators have been in full-day professional development sessions since Monday the 17th. And there will then be optional school-based PD for all other school-based staff beginning Wednesday next week, which will take us through Tuesday, September the 1st. So again, that is optional professional development for school-based staff. And then the first day of school, so professional development will begin for all school-based staff on Wednesday, September the 2nd. So that's when all staff will formally report to school. And then the first day of school for students will be Tuesday, September the 8th, after the long weekend. With the papal visit coming to the region, I think everyone in this room is probably pretty familiar with the visit and the way it's going to impact our schools. We sent out a notification a few days ago. We will have an early dismissal on the Friday of, leading into the visit, so Friday, September the 25th. And then we will be closed on Monday, September the 28th. So half day on the Friday, and then a full closure on Monday. And then back to school nights begin September 30th for our elementary and family schools, and then on Thursday, October 1st for high schools. As some of you all may know, we are required to share out it's a statutory requirement to share out the number of reported HIB incidents. And so I want to start the meeting today by just giving out the most recent numbers, and I'll quickly juxtapose those on last year's numbers. So this is an annual requirement, and as of July 2015, there were 224 alleged incidents of HIB reported during the school year, during the 2014-15 school year. And of those reported incidents, 77 of them were cases that were confirmed to be incidents of bullying under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. And so that is the definition of the harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So this compares to 266 reported cases and 86 confirmed cases the year before. So our numbers this year are slightly down in terms of the reported cases and also slightly down on the confirmed cases. So over the course of the school year, our educators, school-based youth services, Office of School Security collectively have taken a number of steps to help develop positive, safe climates in our schools. And so that includes the PIBIS pilot, the Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports, anti-bullying and other safety presentations and anti-bullying events over the course of the year. And we're looking forward to expanding on those efforts because, quite frankly, it's not enough. And we're actually this evening going to be discussing in some detail the students' rights and responsibilities. So what was previously known as the Student Code of Conduct. We're going to talk a little bit about some new changes as we continue to move away from punitive measures when it comes to addressing school culture and climate and toward restorative justice. So I'll get into that in just a moment. Thank you, Sean. Finally, school safety teams will be assigned and in place at each school at the start of the new school year to develop, foster, and maintain positive school culture climate. So that's something that's been happening. So I'm going to spend a quick moment talking about students' rights and responsibilities. And we're excited to take the next step in this conversation. At the same time, I want to again acknowledge that we have so much to do when it comes to addressing issues around discipline in our schools. And so the backdrop here is that when we look at last year and we look at my first year, collectively, I don't believe we've done enough. And I do believe that we are often too reflexive to hand out 1, 5, 10-day suspensions for, at times, what are minor infractions inside of our schools. And so when we are quick to discipline kids in this manner, one, we are pulling kids out of school, and that is a problem in and of itself. And for the most part, students are then not only in an unstructured environment, but they are totally unsupervised. And so that, again, is a major problem. Secondly, when students are suspended, they are more likely to end up in the juvenile justice system. And when young people are in the juvenile justice system, they're more likely to then find their way into prison. And so that is what the statistics tell us. That is what common sense tells us. And so we have taken more deliberate steps this year to move away from those practices. That is not to say that we will not have structure inside of our schools. That is not to say that a student acting out in a classroom will be tolerated. We absolutely want structure. We absolutely want to instill discipline, but at the same time, we need to promote positive behavior, and we need to approach this work very differently. And that begins by better supporting our educators, because this is really, really hard. And I hold myself ultimately responsible and accountable, and we need to ensure that, again, we're being clear about the expectations and that we're supporting our educators and training our educators. And so that began during the principal professional development over the last few days, where we've had this dialogue with our school leaders, and we'll continue into the start of the school year. So, in short, when it comes to the students' rights and responsibilities, we are doing a few things. I mean, we are simplifying the structure to streamline consequences. And so what that means is we've created 4 tiers, and only for the most severe breaches of the student rights and responsibilities. And so we call those Tier 3 and Tier 4 infractions. Will there be a suspension handed out? And so what that means is students won't be sent home from school for a basic uniform violation. which has happened in the past. And so we're just a lot more clear about the basic parameters of how a school, whether it's an administrator or teacher, is handing out a suspension. So updated policies, again, have been shared with our principals and will be shared with our educators at the very start of the school year. We look forward to having that conversation with you all in more detail. This is really hard and complicated work, but it is really, really important work. Over the course of the 2 years, we have heard so much about the need for an updated curriculum. And we are thrilled the hard work over the course of these 2 years to get us to this point where we are now rolling out a brand new K-12 math and literacy curriculum. So to help walk us through high level, the offerings, and we've begun this conversations with our principals, I'm going to welcome up Katrina McCombs to walk us through it. Katrina.
Thank you, Superintendent. And as our superintendent has stated, we are very excited to be able to roll out a cohesive, Common Core aligned curriculum for our kindergarten through 12th grade students. This is something that has been in the works in the planning stages over the last year, and we're looking forward to, in the weeks to come, sharing more detailed information with our board members and everyone else around the intricate details of the curriculum. Just from a high-level overview standpoint, the curriculum was created in consultation with teachers and principals, so it wasn't created in a vacuum. That's something that's very important. Stakeholders who were very much relevant were involved, and I think that's something different about this curriculum that sets it apart from previous curriculum in the past. And this collaborative process was done after reviewing the best available resources from around the country. So again, it wasn't something that was done within a vacuum, but research went into this, hard work and diligence in order to turn around or to give our students the best possible viable curriculum so that they can achieve academically. Camden City School District had not aligned its curriculum with the new higher standards in New Jersey, and schools have been using different materials on an ad hoc basis. So what we wanted to bring about is uniformity, standard levels of expectation, so that regardless of where our students attend schools, they are still being given what is their right, a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So again, that's just to underscore the importance of uniformity in expectations and uniformity in implementation, which can only come from a uniform and commonly aligned curriculum. These uniform materials, which are being mandated across schools, will help to provide coherent guidance on supporting students to reach a new higher bar, as has existed in other districts across the state. So we want to be able to give our students the opportunity to grow. In our school leader PD that superintendent referred to, we've been engaged in, and we culminated today. But the theme of our PD was Camden City School District schools, incubators of academic excellence. Unless we have this Common Core aligned curriculum in place, which we do now, and now we have to look at the fidelity of implementation, unless that all occurs, then we're not giving our students that access to academic excellence. And one final noted point, the district is now working on expanding the new curriculum to expand other subject areas. So if you go on the district website, which is available, you can feel free to go on that site. You may see that there is a focus on math and literacy. Those are the foundational subject areas, and we know that science is just as important, that social studies is just as important. But we are starting with math and literacy because if our students don't have the basics of math and also the foundations in literacy, they won't be able to perform in those other areas. And through an integrated thematic approach, those other areas can be incorporated into math and literacy. So it's not that our students are missing out on anything as we roll up the curriculum to have a separate, distinct social studies and science curriculum. And at this point, that's what I'd like to share. I am very much excited, if you can't tell, because this is a long time coming from my perspective as a teacher, as a principal, and now being able to see this in action, I think it really sets our students up for success and gives them what they deserve. Thank you for this space.
You want to take a quick question? It's all right. We'll take.
Do you have any questions? Yes. Which one? There are many pretty ladies in this room. Yes. Okay. I appreciate that concern, and that's a very valid point. I think the practice of differentiated instruction. Oh, okay. So I'm going to try to get the essence of your question. I think you're saying that the Common Core aligned curriculum, you don't feel that that's giving students the best because it doesn't allow us to be able to meet the needs of all of the learners, the various levels in our classrooms. Am I characterizing your question correctly? Okay, got it. So what I'll say is that the curriculum is a tool that's used for educators who have been trained, who have been certified, to be able to deliver content area information to students. The practice, the art of teaching has to do with teachers being able to take their students where they receive them and move them as far as they can go, maximize their academic achievement. One of the best ways, research-based ways to do that is through differentiated instruction. And differentiated instruction has really is applied regardless of what curriculum is in place. So I hear what you're saying with the Common Core aligned curriculum, but regardless of what curriculum we put in place, teachers have to be able to take that curriculum, adapt it, modify it, utilize it to meet the needs of the learners that are in front of them. And when I say that, I'm speaking of those students with special needs, those students who may be English language learners, those students who just may be a few grade levels behind for whatever reason. So I definitely hear and hear where you're coming from with your question, but I'm going to push back a little bit and say that our teachers, our classroom teachers, our craft and our art as educators is to be able to meet the needs of the students who are in front of us, regardless of the textbooks, the curriculum, regardless of what's there, because we have to adapt it and modify it. I'd love to continue the conversation, though, because I'm sure we can go back and forth and go deeper, but I welcome that opportunity. Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Brown? Yes, thank you. You're welcome. So I'll try to hit at that level of detail from the knowledge that I have, and I won't speak outside of my understanding, but I will make myself available to go back and gather the information from our chief school support officers who are working directly with the high schools. What I can tell you is that I know specifically at Creative and Medical Arts, Dr. Brockington has been able to have honors courses in her school, and also at Woodrow Wilson High School, there are honors courses that, and AP courses, that are there as well. It's not, so when it comes to this curriculum, we haven't gotten to all of the areas when it comes to our gifted and talented students. I think that's another piece where we have to go after this. This curriculum, K-12, speaks to getting a common understanding, a level playing field, a beginning for us to get there. And I know there are many nuances of your question that I am just not getting at, but what I can say is those efforts are in place at Canva. Those efforts are in place at Woodrow Wilson. And our senior lead educator, Janelle Williams, is also working specifically with the CTL program to have advanced courses so that students begin taking physics at earlier grade levels in our high schools, not just our magnets, but our comprehensive high schools as well. So that effort to raise the bar, while at the same time, because we're still building this as we go, is underway. And I don't mind talking to you about that more with some of my team members who have the expertise in that area as well. The vertical and horizontal articulation are very critical, I think, at any grade level. It's so crucial. That's why collaborative planning time is so important, and scheduling. We guide our principals, direct them to make sure that there is common planning time so that it's not only for horizontal or same grade level groups, but also building in time where the pre-K teachers can talk to kindergarten teachers to understand where students are coming from and what they need to be equipped with for success. Same way all the way up the field, so up the grade level chain. So that's a practice, again, like differentiated instruction, that is a practice that's not tied to a curriculum. That's just best instructional practice. And I will continue to talk to you, okay, about it. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Repeat your question one more time, because I thought I heard something different at the beginning. So that's something that I would have to explore a little bit further to see what the impact of that would be. But I can tell you that our grants office and our early childhood department as well, there's Race to the Top funding that's available through the state. And to my knowledge, that wouldn't be limited or impacted or affected by the Common Core connection with religion. So that is something I'd have to find. Could you?
So federal funding is not jeopardized at all. And so as far as the data mining goes, I mean, the only data we're utilizing here is to support student instruction. So the data will be simply used by teachers to inform how they're approaching our students. And so that's the bottom line, and we don't anticipate federal funds at all being jeopardized. The governor did announce recently that he wants to reevaluate Common Core, and we don't anticipate that jeopardizing federal funds either. There's one question in the back, and then we've got to move on. Mr. Waters.
I'm probably going to piggyback off of what her question was, I think, because I'm concerned about the fact that throughout this country, Common Core has been rejected by those communities and school districts where you would consider success at its highest level. Standardized testing impacting it. How will this new rollout affect eliminating standardized testing, which again, across the country, the Common Core has been said to be a deterrent for success in the classroom? And how is that going to be addressed in this initiative?
So here's what I'll say. Common Core is simply a set of standards. A standard is what a student should know at the end of every grade. And so you're right that there is a national dialogue happening about Common Core. Some agree with it, some don't. And at the end of the day, it is about setting our standards higher. And so if the governor and the state decide to redo our standards, we fully anticipate those standards will be similarly high, that they won't change drastically. And the State Department of Education has made that much very clear, that they won't change meaningfully. So whether you call it Common Core, you call it the New Jersey standards, whatever you want to call it, it just means we're setting the bar high for our kids, and our curriculum won't meaningfully change. That's all it is. And in terms of testing, we have heard that feedback from the community, that the last 2 years, the percentage of instructional time being devoted to assessments is increasing and it's becoming too much, which is why we have reduced the time we're allocating to the interim assessments. So we've reduced one entire administration of interim assessments. Secondly, the state responded to that. We don't control the administration of PARC. That is a state decision, not decision that we make here locally. But the state also responded to the local feedback, and they have reduced the time invested in the park administration significantly. So there were 2 administrations this past year. There will only be 1 next year. All right, so one last question, we got to move on.
That's a great question, and I think I want to keep going back to the fact that whatever the curriculum is that we implement, we must have tutoring in place. Through SIA funding, there is after-school tutoring. There are after-school tutoring dollars that are available to have extended day, before and after-school programs, and that's regardless of whatever the curriculum is that's implemented. So I think it's just our duty as educators to make sure, again, that we meet each child where they are and provide them with the tools and equip them to be able to grow as much as possible. I'm not talking about standardized test results right now. I'm not talking about Park, Ask, anything else. I'm just saying when students come into our classrooms, they shouldn't leave the same way they came. They shouldn't leave on the same level that they came in. There should be growth, and that growth is measured through the SGO process, through many other pieces that are put in place. But to your point, absolutely, it's our duty to make sure that our students have opportunities for tutoring, and there are funds that are available so that schools and school leaders can develop programs before school, after school, in order to do that, or find other creative ways. Is it mandatory that they receive tutoring? It's not. We don't have a mandatory setup, but we are obligated to offer that. So it is not mandatory. No, we can't mandate it.
So anyone else who is curious about the curriculum, we can sit down with you in a smaller group. Mr. Barfield, one last question.
My concern is that you talk about curriculum and rolling out this new curriculum. What material and text do you have in place for ordering? I don't see anything through the superintendent report that's going to support a new curriculum being rolled out in the course of the school year. Great question.
So we do have resources that go along with the curriculum. We have programs, and I can go into detail with those. Read 180 is a program that we will be utilizing. It's computer-based, so there may not be separate textbooks, but it's a computerized system that, in a differentiated way, is able to provide that individualized learning for our students who may be behind. That's one program and resource that we are utilizing because it allows for our students who may be older, who may be a little bit embarrassed that they are behind, to be able to work at the computer. Teachers can plan and tier it out so they can have a sequence to help to get them to the place where they're closing that gap without it being so public. There are other resources. If I can answer his question, then I'll jump right to you. No, it's okay. I just want to make sure. We're on the same page for the same kids. I'm here. I'm good. I'm ready. So one of the things, Mr. Barfield, is that you may not see a lot of textbooks, traditional textbooks, aligned with the curriculum. We have EBSCO-host as well, which is a database where teachers can pull from in order to get curriculum resources that are tiered, that they can select the reading levels so that those items can be used to build prior knowledge. So you may not see traditional textbooks, but there are resources that are aligned to the curriculum, and I'd be happy to sit down and go into more detail with you on those. And I'm sorry, I wanted to finish this question first. Is there a computer for every child in every classroom? There is not a one-to-one computer ratio. We don't have a one-to-one. However, we do have a technology department that's working very closely with school support, and we've looked at maximizing, spreading out our resources so that the technology is in place to be able to implement the programs. So that is something that's taken seriously, and that's what we're moving forward with. That's not the case. No, that's not the case at all. There is a very rigorous, concerted effort to make sure that the resources are in place so that our students have what they need at the beginning of the school year to be able to implement the curriculum. There may be places where technical difficulty is in place and we may have to tweak it, but there is a district-wide plan that has been put into place to maximize the number of laptops that are in each of our schools so that they can be used. They're more flexible than the desktops, and also making sure that we have desktops in classrooms for those grades that need them.
We should move on. We should move on.
Okay.
These are all great questions, and as I was mentioning earlier, thank you again, Ms. McCombs. If anyone wants to do a fuller debrief and ask continued questions, we'd be happy to set up something after work hours or maybe some brown bag lunch. But clearly, we could spend a very, very long time unpacking the curriculum, and we'd be happy to do so. Wait, did I? Okay. So really quickly on Camden Commitment, we had a series of community meetings. Recently, we also administered the survey, and we went back out in the community seeking feedback. And in those community meetings, there was a host of different questions, ideas communicated. It was also a forum to voice concerns and raise issues, and it was an open, honest dialogue. I will say that the surveys in total, we received over 500, and the majority of those respondents, so it was a mix of students, educators, parents, and community members, the majority of which said that they believe that progress around the 5 promises in the Camden Commitment has been made, although clearly there is still room for improvement. And the promise that saw the most positive response was Promise 3, Great Teaching and Learning. 70% of respondents indicated the district has made progress there. The promise that saw the lowest response was Promise 2, with 21st century buildings and technology. So slightly lower response there as far as the percentage that felt that we've been making meaningful progress. So now that we've compiled this information, we will be building the new plan, which we look forward to announcing later in September. And so just as a quick reminder, we are keeping the same 5 basic promises: Safe Students, Safe Schools 1, higher quality facilities and better technology 2, 3 focused on instruction and student services, 4th, empowering our families, and then 5th, ensuring that the central office is delivering on those 4 promises. And look forward to sharing more information out about that new strategic plan. I want to give a quick update on new school construction. We've shared with you guys over the last year or so the developments here. So most recently, Mastery was approved to develop on State and River in Kramer Hill. And I also just wanted to share with you all that Uncommon Schools has committed to serving the Whitman Park neighborhood, which I know we've discussed in this forum, and that they have secured property on the corner of Haddon and Copewood. Haddon and Copewood. It was privately owned, undeveloped property on Haddon and Copewood. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of this, because I do believe that there was a little bit of misinformation out there about eminent domain and some work that's coming out of City Hall, but that Uncommon has, separate and apart from that, purchased a piece of property from a private owner, and it is not currently a residential area. That piece of property is undeveloped, and that's where their new elementary school will be constructed. All right, so some district highlights, mostly focused on what transpired over the summer. So we had a summer enrichment program, which we served 1,300 students, and that, since I was appointed, is a record number. Significant improvement from last year. And so the programs provide support in literacy and math building skills. We had a number of wonderful nonprofit partners that then pushed in for the afternoon sessions. The pictures here from the Cause Aquatic Camp with veteran students. And we also had SWAG, which is our summer job program. That's the picture over to the far right, where we employed about 80 middle school, high school, and college students, all that are either current students in Camden or graduated from Camden. And it was a neat opportunity for all of us in the central office to spend time with them, and we certainly hope that they had a positive experience. We had a recent event at the Kroc Center for the scholarship that we have offered. And so nearly 100 families received this scholarship to the Kroc Center. And so as part of the orientation, those families, we asked them to attend this session. And so they agreed to attend 2 family university classes per month as part of the scholarship. And so their families get access to the Kroc Center, and then they also participate in these family university classes that have to do with parenting skills, health and wellness, and just in general, just empowering our families to best serve their students. We also had a summer parent academy, and this is over the summer, and it'll happen also during the course of the school year, where for over 6 weeks there were 4 different parent camps, and each camp focused on different skills. So for example, at the Isabel Miller Center, the camp focused on adult literacy skills, on guidance on supporting students with special needs, so how the parents could best support their kids as it relates to literacy skills especially. And we also had a career and finance camp, and this happened at the Center for Family Services, where the parents received training in career readiness and financial literacy skills. I think a lot of you all have heard that a number of our student athletes have received scholarships to play in high major athletic programs on the Division I level, which is incredibly exciting. And so 2 of our students, Dymel Parker and Jamal Holloway, have committed to play football at Syracuse University, and 2 of our students, Brad Hawkins and Ron Johnson, have committed to play at the University of Michigan. I also just wanted to point out that Cesar Ruiz, who was a rising junior at Med East, received an opportunity to attend the IMG Academy, which is an elite private/boarding school in Florida that prepares collegiate athletes. So I know it was hard for him to leave the city, the school district, Med East, and certainly his teammates on the Camden High football team, but certainly a decision in his best interest and one that we fully support, and we're just incredibly proud of these 5 young men. I mentioned already that we held our Principal Institute, so here are a group of our school leaders digging into some of the new curriculum resources for the 15-16 school year. Last week we hosted a superintendent's parents roundtable. So the roundtable just provides an opportunity for parents to come together, weigh in on district policies, and allow our staff to hear directly from our parents. Members of this group represent all different grade levels and school types across the city of Camden. Parents were selected through an open nomination process. So building principals, community organizations, church groups, CSCs, district leaders, I even nominated a couple parents. So a host of different nominations that came through. If anyone is interested in learning more about it, certainly feel free to reach out to anyone on our team. And I thought the session just the other week went very well. And then in general, we've had a lot of different learning opportunities for our staff. So the top left is a picture of Maggie Sorby and Andrew Bell and Principal Miles, Keith Miles from Woodrow Wilson at the White House. It was I should say it was sponsored by the White House. I don't know where exactly in Washington, D.C. they are. They might be at the White House. And it was a conference about restorative justice, exactly what we were discussing earlier, and building our capacity to implement restorative justice practices here in Camden. And then a number of other professional development opportunities in the bottom right, for example. These are our school nurses in a training session with our supervisor of nursing services, Renee Wickerstein. We will acknowledge those who are retiring. Ms. Wilson will do so once we get back up on the stage. And that concludes the superintendent's presentation. Well, why don't you actually come up to the stage? Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'd like to thank Judith Lucinda, 25 years, Alonzo Sutton, 35 years, 15 years, James Kelly, 11 years, and Joyce Felder, 20 years. We'd like to thank them for taking the time and opportunity to work with our children in the city of Camden. As I've always said, that when you come into the city of Camden to work with our children, you fall in love. And you stay here because you care about who they are, and you want to make sure that you can teach them all that they can absorb. And we're not going to change that. We're going to continue to do everything that we can as an administration, as a board, to make sure that our children get everything that they're entitled to, no matter where they live. Because they're in the city of Camden, it doesn't mean that they should get anything differently. And I want to say thank you to those staff members, because they taught to the highest level, each and every one of them who have come in here on a daily basis. Thank you.
All right, we will reconvene up on stage. All right, so you're gonna, I'm turning it over to Ms. Coscarelli. Okay. And then I'm gonna. Okay, so I would now like to pass it over to Board Member Barbara Coscarella, who would like to share some news with us.
Thank you. I'd like to share with all of you and the public a letter that I recently sent to our mayor. Can you hear me out there? Okay. No?
Pull the microphone a little bit closer.
Dear Mayor, it is with sincere remorse that I submit to you my resignation as a member of the Camden City Advisory Board of Education, effective August 26, 2015. I have thoroughly enjoyed my 6.5-year tenure as a board/advisory board member and chair of the Finance Committee during this time. During my service to the district, I was also elected as a board member of the New Jersey School Boards Association, NJSBA, as well as a member and later treasurer of the Steering Committee for the Council of Urban Boards of Education, the Urban Division of the National School Boards Association, NSBA, where I was able to represent the interests and concerns of our district. While chairing the Camden Board of Ed Finance Committee, I'm proud to say that a number of cost-saving initiatives which I spearheaded were instituted by the school administration. They include privatizing food services. After many years of losing over $1 million per year, the district now realizes a minimal $500,000 surplus per year. Professional service contracts. They are now being awarded on a specified bid process, with additional points being granted to minority and women business owners. Is the next one, can we speak about the next one in the letter, the last bullet? Not the amount, just, okay. Sale of the administration building. This is currently being pursued and will result in the elimination of over $500,000 annually in maintenance and repair costs for the building. I certainly hope my services during these years has meant as much to you as they have to me. Rest assured that I am committed to the development of Camden City, and in particular its children, for as long as I am able. Thank you very much for the privilege of being of service to you and to our wonderful city. Sincerely, Barbara A. Coscarello. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Coscarelli, I just want to thank you again for your service, your commitment to the kids in Camden for 6.5 years as an official board member, but certainly far, far longer as you've been committed to this city for over 20 years, I believe, as a member of the Fairview community. And we appreciate your thought partnership, your hard work. I will certainly remember you for your incisive questions, cutting to the heart of the matter, and pushing us on the issues that matter most. So thank you again.
Thank you, Payman. I appreciate that coming from you.
All right. Well, as you can see by the flowers, we were celebrating her a little bit earlier, and we will miss Ms. Coscarella dearly. I'm now going to pass it over to Minister Wasim Mohammed, who would also like to share something.
Can you hear me? Yes, thank you, Superintendent. And I would also like to thank our board president and vice president. First of all, I would like to wish Ms. Coscarello a very wonderful new future. And it's been an honor for me to serve with you these few short years that I've served with you.
Did you hear I'm taking over your ministry?
You're more than welcome. But nevertheless, I would like to thank our board president and vice president, Ms. Catherine Blackshear, and Ms. Martha Wilson for giving me this opportunity to speak to the community concerning the coming up this October 10th, 2015. We will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, which is convened by Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is the national representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, that 20 years ago, that one of the most significant protests or rallies that's ever been held in the United States of America was convened 20 years ago at the mall in Washington, D.C. It's been 20 years since then, and to commemorate the 20th anniversary, we in the Nation of Islam is going back to Washington, D.C. on October 10th, 2015, with the theme of Justice or Else. And Justice or Else covers the lack of opportunities not only in urban centers, but rural and suburban centers. And this time, it is not just the Million Man March, it is a movement of families. And it's not just for black men, it's for black, brown, yellow, red, and white people this year, that families can come, and male, women, and children. And I would want to thank our mayor here in the city of Camden, Mayor Dana Redd, and her staff, particularly Ms. Novella Starks Henson, for partnering with Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 20 here in Camden to organize and make sure that the city of Camden, and as well as the Advisory Board of Education, do what was done years ago, that Camden 20 years ago was the first city to shut down a school system in light of the protest of the things that were going on 20 years ago, which was then held under the board president, the late and great Miss Rosemary Jackson, and under Councilman Ali Salone L at the time, and so many great members, and Miss Martha Wilson as well was a member of the school board then. And Camden came across nationally as being very impactful to the movement 20 years ago. So we are now organizing here in the city of Camden at Bethel Deliverance Baptist Church under the guidance of Reverend Kevin Washington here every Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. at Bethel Deliverance Baptist Church, which is located at 812 Kane Avenue. I would like to encourage everyone to be involved. This is not just a march for one day. This is a movement that highlights a lot of things going on within our community in urban America and things going outside of our community as far as government policies, positions, and procedures. I would like to once again thank you for the opportunity, Superintendent and Vice President, Ms. Martha Wilson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now want to turn it over to Ms. Karen Willis, our Assistant Business Administrator, to present the business office agenda items.
Superintendent, the business office would like to request approval of the bill list, the financial report, and resolutions number 1 through 19.
Questions, comments from advisory board members? Yeah.
Could I ask a question on the superintendent's report? I have a concern about closing Friday at 1 during the Pope's visit and all of Monday. The Pope leaves early in the morning on Monday, and the Schuylkill Expressway, the Ben Franklin Bridge and the Schuylkill Expressway will be opening at noon. It seems it would be more practical, since there'll be events going on all day Friday, to have all day Friday off and then close school at 1 o'clock on Monday.
So
That's the schedule.
it would be next to impossible to keep school open at all on Monday, because in the morning, if you think about all of our teachers who are coming from all different parts of South Jersey especially, so 1:30 and 30 all close from Airport Circle down to the bridge until noon. So there's really no way of getting into the city. So you can't actually
But how are
open
they
up
going
school.
to get out on, how would they get out on Friday?
Friday, the bridge and 30 and 1:30 don't close until 10 p.m. So we have until 10 p.m.
I thought they were
before
closing
things
the
start to
bridge.
get really
I thought they
jammed.
were
Now,
closing it
likely
on
you'll start seeing
Thursday.
traffic before 10 p.m.,
Okay.
but by dismissing early in the day, we believe that gives us sufficient time.
Okay, I thought it was just the opposite. Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Any other questions on the business agenda items? Okay. So in accordance with the powers vested in me under 18A, I hereby approve today's superintendent's agenda items and business office agenda items. I now want to turn over the meeting to our general counsel for public comment portion.
All right, we will now enter public comment. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. I will notify you when your 3 minutes are up. If you have any questions, please ask the superintendent during your 3-minute comment period. And after the public comment is over, the superintendent will address your questions. First speaker is Carrie Ingram. Carrie Ingram.
I believe she talked to someone on our team.
Number 2, Martina Godbolt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I stand before you this evening to tell you my story. My name is Martina Godbolt. I am a special education teacher. I grew up in the city of Camden and still reside in the city of Camden. My relationship with the Camden City School District stems all the way back to the year 2000. During this time, I was an 8th grade student. I began volunteering at Pine Point Middle School, and I taught dance forms such as tap, jazz, and ballet to the 7th and 8th grade students. I volunteered there until college. Ever since I was a little girl, I had a desire to teach in the city of Camden. I wanted to be someone in the community our students could look up to. I wanted to acquire a position that would not only grant me the opportunity to teach our students academically, but instill in them the skills they need to excel in a poverty-stricken community. Therefore, prior to graduating college, I student taught at Forest Hill School. Once I graduated, I obtained 2 certificates with advanced standing: Teacher of Students with Disabilities and Teacher of Students Preschool through Grade 3. The following school year, 2012 through 2013, I was hired by the Kansas City School District as a special education teacher at Forest Hill School. During my teaching experience, my students continuously showed academic growth, and I myself participated a great deal in my school community. For instance, I was a member of numerous committees, and I took on many leadership roles, such as grade level chair, and I also spearheaded all of the Forest Hill Academic Awards ceremonies. I taught at Forest Hill School until I received a non-renewal letter this past May. It was written that I was being non-renewed as a result of not being able to produce a standard certificate. Now, before I go forth, let me enlighten you. According to the New Jersey Teacher Mentoring Regulations, each public school district is required to implement a system of supports for new teachers. However, I believe the Camden City School District did not fully implement an effective system of support during my first year teaching. I completed the mandatory teacher mentoring program. I upheld all the responsibilities of a novice teacher. There were several documents in 2013 that should have been sent to the Department of Education upon my completion of the teacher mentoring program, but they were not. As a result, I have not obtained my standard certificates, and I received a non-renewal letter for the upcoming school year. I
Thank you,
do
Ms.
not
Godbolt. Your
think I
time
should
is
be
up.
held accountable for circumstances beyond my control and lose my job. Now, I won't go into detail here, but the Camden City School District has shown an excessive amount of unprofessionalism in regard to this matter and have truly failed me. This issue has not been resolved. Therefore, I stand before you on behalf of myself as well as any other individual who have encountered a similar situation.
Thank you, Ms. Godbolt. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Appreciate an explanation. Thank you. Yours truly.
Number 3, Sean Brown.
Good evening, Sean Brown, Camden resident. First, to my former fellow school board member, Ms. Coscarello, I wish you happiness and success in your future. This might be a good time for me to go to the other side of Fairview and get like the deep story.
Thank you.
I want to, it's interesting in this meeting and the previous meetings that this board has had since 2013 that if Barbara Coscarello isn't on the board, there's not literally a person that's going to ask a question on the advisory board. And that's a bad thing. Your silence is bad. Despite what you might say in closed session, the phone calls you might have, the email exchanges that you might have with the superintendent and the administration, your silence in these meetings, which is the only time the public has an opportunity to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your suggestions, your complaints, for you to use this pulpit and be silent in it is a problem. Now, there's also a problem that the community was not able to come together in order to get enough petitions in order to have the voters decide to change that process. So there's certainly ways that all of us can improve in what we do. But Ms. Coscarello, we certainly had fun for 3 years, and I wish you success. I came here, and I can make this brief, I came here today to just talk about an issue that I've brought up many times, that Superintendent Rohanafard has brought up a little bit today. When we look at the level of violence in our city, the murders, the gang violence, the shootings, the assaults, as community leaders, advisory board members, and superintendent, it's incumbent upon us to think, what can we do with our positions of power, our access to the mayor, our relationships with the police, the fact that you sit in a place where the community comes to hear what it is that you have to say. You have to ask yourself the question, what is it that I individually can do with the group and the team that I work with? The other day I was going through the pages of the Whitman Park Plan, and the document's over 100 pages, and I got on one page and it said, second step. Now, second step to most people in Camden, they may have no idea what that is. But as a school board and as a superintendent, it's a pretty big deal. Second step is a proprietary curriculum, pre-K through 12, that teaches conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. Now, board members, unfortunately, it came late, but I took a class on conflict resolution. It was after my time on this board. I might have been a little bit nicer to some of you. But I learned the type of model I have of how I deal with conflict and the best strategies for how to deal with it. It didn't come naturally to me. Some people are gifted in their personalities and the way they deal with conflict that they don't need anybody to teach them. But some people are in an environment that is negative and where people don't literally know how to deal with conflict with other people. And when you attach that to their a need for attachment and a culture of violence within gangs, that's how, in part, we get to the level of violence that we get to in this city. So when I saw that page, I saw Second Step on the page, I'm like, I know good and well this school district has not fully implemented Second Step through K through 12. They have a abbreviated version of it, and I'm almost finished, Brian. They have an abbreviated version of it for pre-K, which is a good start, but it's far from where we need to be. So I'm really curious, as the only basically 10 people that have influence on what 12,000 young people learn on a daily basis for 180 days, how will you use your power and your influence in the claim of Second Step in this district in order to have a response to the level of violence that we have? Our speeches are good, our motivation is fine, but young people are dying, and there's a lot of blame to go around. But for the power that you have, I'm really curious how you're going to use it in order to address this issue. Thank you.
Number 4, Kevin Waters.
I could really blow that away.
Good afternoon, advisory board members and everyone here. I hope you all have enjoyed your summer so far. I wrote that, but that's a true sentiment. I wrote it down, but I want to make sure you understand. I hope you are enjoying your summer. I'm here today to speak to you about narratives. There is the perception that educational excellence still cannot be obtained at Camden High and Woodrow Wilson. That's notwithstanding the new run out of the program to change the curriculum. There is a perception that a child is not safe in both of the educational environments. And that's Camden High, that's Woodrow Wilson and the High. And I use the word educational environment to advance my own narrative that a child can, and a parent can, and should keep their student in both of those high schools. That would be Wilson and Camden High. Safety is not really an issue. Now, I looked at the Camden graduate site on the district's webpage, which I was pleased to see, the acknowledgement of academic and personal success for those students who have overcome personal struggles. It is amazing to witness these achievements. We have students who have been characterized, again, as going to schools that will not have prepared them to go to college. Now, your keynote speaker for that day, Mr. Preston Brown, actually told you he turned down a scholarship to attend Harvard. Education was and still is in the High and at Woodrow Wilson. Now, I hope that you are now convinced that an education can be achieved in both of these high schools. Each student from Woodrow Wilson and Camden High who have been highlighted at the ceremony on the website said that they not only achieved, they are prepared to go to college. Now, I highlight again Wilson and the High because of the narrative of failing schools, and Woodrow Wilson and the High seem to be prominent in those descriptions. 1, would you, Superintendent, begin to let parents know they can keep their students in both Wilson and the High? 2, can you end the public display of my school is better than your school by Mastery Uncommon and, at times, Renaissance? 3, will you begin to focus on the parents who have successful students in these schools, such as Wilson and the High, and why they have chosen or are opposed to taking their students out? The governor, I'm going back to that guy, was wrong about there being only 3 college-ready students, and I'm sure that you are aware of that now and will probably at some point correct that statement. The middle school conversions were done to schools that were producing students who were being successful. So I'm not sure what you're going to do next, but I hope that you're going to be able to answer my questions, because I think that in this life, we only get one opportunity to do some things, and your behavior I hope that what you're going to do, Mr. Superintendent, is make sure that you are able to tell parents, keep your child in Woodrow Wilson, keep your child in the High. Thank you very much.
Number 5, Kevin Barfield.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I want to start off, and I want to acknowledge and thank the board for their swag program. As a parent, and you're seeing your child have their first job, receive their first income, open up their own bank account, understand what real life is, the process of what is about to begin is definitely rewarding. That's all you want to see, and I'd like to thank the district for that, starting that off. The other question I have to Superintendent, and hope that this year, when, as far as I know, like with me, when I come and ask questions, that you answer the questions and not pick and choose which ones you want to answer and forget about everything, especially those that are important, that are relevant. My point is an article in reference to the Regional Achievement Center coming back into the district. It stated that the Regional Achievement Centers were here for 2 years, which is incorrect, was in here for 1. What will we see as a present with that RACS being in this school district this coming school year? The second one, which is very important, is our board meetings. We come to our board meetings, you give out information, but for some reason, our board meetings aren't being televised to the community. People in the community are wondering why, and then we're talking about at a time when people are watching television that's feasible so people can be in touch with what's going on in the community. That's not happening. I'd like to ask that question. The other piece is respond to the special meeting that you had on March 17th that dealt with the New Jersey CUSAC score and report. Nothing has come out in reference to the public, in reference to what those scores were, and anything in reference to what the report that was submitted or adopted through the state, which again was asked before, but I would hope that you bring that information to the community again. In reference to some of the issues, like I'm looking at the resolution on your superintendent report on page 75. Who's High Nella Board of Education that you join shared services in reference to, I guess there's some repairs of cameras and things of that nature. I'm kind of concerned, like, why are we, and who's this school district and why are we sharing shared service with them? The other part is with this contract with Source for teachers. Again, what is the assessment being done on them? Because again, from what I'm seeing as far as last year, again, you have teachers that are coming in and they basically, if they come in, they're just there. There's nothing in reference to, if we're replacing teachers and we're bringing in people who are coming in for a day just to babysit, again, our students are losing out because again, by us not having updated curriculum, by us not having lesson plans or whatever, no one can follow what's taking place when these teachers are out. So I'd like for you to answer that question too. And again, basically that's it in reference to, for me. I know, again, I'm concerned about a lot of, like, especially with us, when we was trying to do an event last year, it was talked about our information not being done on time, submitted to the board. But then I'm always seeing this FACE department coming up here with amendments every board meeting. It's like after the fact, their stuff is being turned in. So, my thing is, if you're going to do things for one people, everybody should follow the same guidelines. Get your stuff done in a timely manner and stop making things up as you go along.
Number 6, Sarah Jocelyn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm coming to you with a question that relates to the annual plan for addressing segregations in the school in Camden City. In a report of 2013, all Camden City schools were in a highly segregated or even apartheid segregated state. And I understand each school district is supposed to do a plan in 3 years and then report annually on progress on this issue. It is very important to bring up the children with knowledge of and respect for diverse cultures. I point to the room that we have here, and I ask you to look at the faces that are on the wall. And these are the models that are here. I don't know if this was a special program, but this is a public meeting, and this is what we're seeing now. It doesn't reflect the full diversity of Camden City. And in fact, there is not a single woman's face that is on the wall here. There are 2 quotes from women, but I think recognizing that tomorrow is women's equality and that we now have 95 years for having the right to vote, we should look for equity among all aspects for gender and for diversity. I asked the board to respond on what their report is, what's the current status, to address the issue as relative to our new schools. And I'm looking forward to hearing your response for addressing the issues of diversity in the teaching of the students in this district. Thank you.
Number 7, Samir Nichols. Number 7, Samir. Number 8, Quinzel Bethea. Samir, your turn is up. Okay. Number 8, Quinzel Bethea.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm just here just to talk about just what we implemented during the school year and over the summer, and just my concerns that we really didn't receive any involvement or any feedback from anyone that came out, from the principals, from the board, from anyone. And I've extensively reached out to a lot of people. So just to tell you what our students have been doing this year and what our organization has done. So one of the first things that we did during the summer, we did have a youth employment project at Dudley School where we employed five middle schoolers from East Canada Middle School, and they participated in a cultural infusion project to infuse the summer enrichment program in cultural infusion. Also there, we taught different respect modules that we developed. It was a very successful program. We didn't receive, there was no violence, there was no, the program was extraordinary. And, we have the videos, we have the pictures, and I submitted some stuff to you as well, Mr. Verhoniford. But it was just a wonderful program, and we've been invited to come back this year. That's how wonderful it was. Also, our students also developed we started a printing press with a partnership with Camden County College. So our students developed a good newspaper. So here's a copy of the newspaper that they developed. So if you see, on the front of the cover is East Canada Middle School, which is no longer East Canada Middle School today. And then marching down, there's a lot that sits on Malton Pike. That's a lot that the students, took care of. It was an eyesore of the community, like high weeds. They cut it down, they mowed the lawn every day, they started planting flowers, and different things like that. So we also in the paper we talked about, we developed a publishing company where a young lady, she also came out with her publishing book. And a lot of things that we've done inside the school, East Canada Middle School, Dudley School, Leap Academy, Creative Arts, and we've been doing these things, and these items have been submitted to the board, and I've been reaching out a lot for some response, for people to come out and see what our children are doing and being productive. We had an entrepreneurship and financial literacy workshops that we did where students were learning the mechanics of mathematics. They opened up bank accounts. So we did all this stuff during the summer. And another one of my concerns is that I had a board item that was submitted, and this particular board item was supposed to, the 5 students that I hired and I employed, it was supposed to pay for their school clothing and all that, and for some reason it's not on the bill list. However, I submitted this item several months ago. I submitted about in July, and the item is not on the bill list, and when I was informed that it would be on the bill list. So now I've been coming out of pocket a lot to support these children, to support the community, and it's just a deep concern of mine that the reason why it's not on there, and that's all I have. Thank you. And this is a copy of the newspaper.
Number 9, Kelly Francis.
Good evening, board members. I come today with a very heavy heart. When I say we, I mean the citizens of the world, of this country, have lost one of the greatest Americans that have ever lived. And I'm speaking of none other than Julian Bond. I've had the honor and pleasure over the years, at least 50 years or more, serving with Julian in various capacities with the NAACP, and I was just with him for a week in Philadelphia last month at the National NAACP Convention. And he was his usual vibrant self and teaching, humanitarian, educator, as always. As you know, if you know the history of the Civil Rights Movement, he was one of the prime movers from the 1960s on. He was helped to shepherd the Civil Rights Act through the Congress of the United States, also the Voting Rights Act, and also the Fair Housing Act. And of course, he was one of the first opponents, even before Dr. King, of the Vietnam War. As a result, he was refused his seat on the Georgia State Senate when he was elected. But eventually, the Supreme Court gave him his seat on the Georgia State Senate. But he was always, for me, a role model, colleague, mentor, and as I said, I have a very heavy heart this evening, and the entire world has lost a champion, because everyone, all parts of this planet have benefited from the efforts of Julian Bond. People have been able to come to this country from all over the world who would never even have considered coming here before the Civil Rights Act, before Brown versus Board of Education. They've been able to come here from all over the country, from the Caribbean, Vietnam, the Middle East, the Far East, India, Pakistan, Turkey, Korea, South America, Central America, Mexico, even Puerto Ricans who became citizens in 1917 were hesitant to come to this country until after the Civil Rights Act was passed, because they would have been treated the same as people of color had been treated for 400 years in this country. But as a result of the efforts of people like Julian Bond, Jesse Jackson, Dr. King, James Farmer from CORE, all of the civil rights leaders over the years have made it possible for everyone in this room, even the white community has benefited from affirmative action. White females particularly have been able to rise to the top of the corporate world as CEOs and even run for the President of the United States as a result of the efforts of Julian Bond and the boys who served along with him. And I am indeed honored that I had the pleasure of serving with him, and over the years, and having learned a lot of the things that he has taught us over the years. He was a humanitarian, he was an educator, a legislator, and a civil rights warrior. So I'm going to ask you tonight, if it hasn't been done, I don't know if he's on the program. I haven't had an opportunity.
Time is up.
But in any event, I'm going to ask that we observe a moment of silence in respect and remembrance for one of the greatest Americans who's ever lived. Thank you very much.
That's the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. So I'm going to quickly go through where there were specific questions and concerns. If we don't get to all of them, our team will stick around as we always do to continue the conversation. So Ms. Gottbolt raised personnel matters, and someone from our team will be reaching out to her to discuss the issue that she raised around her certificate. Mr. Brown, you made this clear, but I also just want to make clear that second step, we have only communicated as a program being implemented in pre-K, which you noted. So we've never purported to have implemented across other grade levels, but certainly agree with you that that approach needs to be taken pre-K through 12. and I highlighted that at the beginning of the conversation today. The one other point I'd very respectfully submit is that you're right that this forum is an opportunity to influence key decisions, but there are also many, many other forums to influence matters, and you should know that as well as anybody as far as how influence happens across the school district. But certainly appreciate your thoughts and comments. Kevin Waters, so Mr. Waters, I feel like once a month you and I kind of pick up our conversation, and my answer to your question is yes, we absolutely want to give our families every reason to choose Camden High and Woodrow Wilson. That is why we promote what is working in those two schools and appreciate all of your efforts at Woodrow Wilson, and do believe that we've seen some improvements at both of those schools with increasing graduation rates and many other initiatives that I believe are signs of progress going forward. Mr. Barfield, you had about 8 or 9 different questions. I'm going to do my very best here. May not get to every last one of them. The RAC is, the article that you read simply refers to the fact that there are 3 positions the state is funding, and I'm looking at my team here to tell me 5 positions the state is funding. And those positions are solely to support our efforts here. And so, the RAC has been in operation, but they've just taken a different shape and form. And for the most part, are just here to support everything that's happening. And that's been the case for quite some time. So that article was really reporting out a matter that, in my mind, was old news. Board meeting is not being televised. So the board meeting is televised. I think maybe what you're getting at is it's not necessarily televised at the hours you've turned on Channel 19, but we do put them on Channel 19. What's more, we do something that's never been done before. They're on YouTube, which means in perpetuity, forever, families, anyone else in the community can access them. But let's say a family doesn't have internet access but has cable. It's still on TV. Happy to share with you the schedule as far as when it runs on Channel 19, but it is available both on Channel 19 and on YouTube.
It's not live, though.
The shared service agreement, so it's with a organization called Hynella, so we're contracting with them to do upgrades and repairs of the security cameras. And so the agreement is with 2 other districts as well, which allows us to save money on the contract. So that's why it's noted as a shared service agreement. If you have any additional questions, happy to talk to you after the fact here. The Source for Teachers contract, no one is saying that things are perfect when it comes to coverage in our classrooms. And I've been very vocal about that, and I've been very transparent about the fact that we have a substitute challenge here in Camden. And it is driven by a number of different factors. And typically the least of those factors are vacancies. Vacancies actually make up a small percentage of our subpool needs. It actually has to do more with leaves of absence, daily call-outs. And so the contract that we've affixed with Source for Teachers will continue to try to address that challenge. We've tightened some screws. I believe it's a better contract this year. Happy to walk you through it in some more detail. But I do believe it's a far, far better contract and agreement than we had last year. And by having a substitute provider, that is a significant improvement from the years past where we didn't have a pool of ready-to-go substitutes, and you would see teachers having to cover classes and having 40 to 45 students in a room. That's not the case today. That's not to say things are perfect. We hear the concern all the time. Happened in a recent community meeting as well where we got into a deep discussion on it. On QSAC, we don't have the latest QSAC scores yet. They must be approved by the state committee before it is public, but we will share that with you once we have it. If there's anything I missed there, come grab me or someone else on our team after the meeting. Ms. Jocelyn, I'll be totally honest with you. I have to better understand that report that you referenced that the district owes every 3 years. So would love just to hear from you after the meeting. Tia's got it. Okay. Okay. So it's in our inbox, so we'll follow up there. Thanks. And Mr. Bethea, so someone on our team will grab you today, just hopefully walk through in some detail. Maybe you've already heard some of this, but just like the way the school-based budgeting process works. Just make sure that you're crystal clear on that, and that to the extent there's demand in our schools, and it sounds like based on what you reported, there is demand in our schools, to the extent principals have room in their budgets to bring on your services, then we'd love to facilitate that. So hopefully someone on our team can kind of walk you through the way that budgeting process. Tanya Beeman's going to reach out to you to better understand some of the issues that you raised. All right? Thank you all very much. That concludes the meeting this evening.
At this time, at this time, I call to motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I second.
A motion to adjourn the meeting was made by Ms. Casarella and Mr. Wasim Mohammed. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say yes.
Yes.
The meeting is now adjourned.